Hey, folks, welcome back to the Pavement Group podcast. We're doing episode number 8 here. Extremely excited. We got a very special guest this week. Megan Calabrese is here with us to talk about all things property management. We're just launched our office in Boston, so it's going to be kind of cool to talk some Boston stuff. As always, my wingman, Brian Hess, is here. We got a great show on tap for you. Thanks for joining us for the podcast, episode number 8. All right, we are live here. Megan, how are you? Great to see you.
I'm great, Todd. How are you?
I'm doing good. I know you got your toe into this podcast game yourself. Let's talk a little bit about that. We're thrilled that you would come on and join us here and looking forward to a fun 20 or 30 minutes here. So thanks for being on the pod. Brian, what's happening, brother?
Same old, man. It's a snowy day here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today. So it's a beautiful day outside. It hasn't turned sloppy yet, so it's still beautiful snow out there today.
I hear you. It's like 62 here. We had a monsoon yesterday. I don't know if 2020 is ever going to normalize, but it seems like it's going to be a weird winter to follow all the stuff that's happened here. So Megan Calabrese with FoxRock, you're the director of operations, director of property management with FoxRock, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. And you've recently started a podcast with, I don't want to say the name wrong, Matt Gregory.
That's right. He gets offended easily. So yeah, Matt Gregory and I started a podcast. We're only on, you guys got 8 under your belt. We've got 3, but it's been going well and it's been fun. We're just, like we talked about before, we're just trying to find a little bit of normalcy here. People are starving for a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of knowledge. So we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of get together and start one. And just similar to you guys, bring some industry, veterans on the show and chat a little bit about real estate, have a little bit of fun. I think some of them are a little dry, not this one, of course, but
okay. We're trying.
You try to have a little bit of fun.
Too soon.
Well, that's why we're bringing on fun people. Do you know Jacob Noble?
Yes, I watched the podcast. It was great.
We did. Okay, yeah. He's fun. So we want it to be entertaining, but also informative. So it's neat for me. Again, I'm a Boston guy. I've known Megan for probably 10 years now.
Yeah.
We've done business in different capacities. And you were with Hall-Keen, I think, when I met you. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then over to Normandy.
With Normandy.
Yeah. T&K did a lot of, when you were with T&K, we did a lot of work with you guys there.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. Like, we can move around, but the relationships stay, right? That's the long-term goal.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got a question about that actually here down the list.
Almost like I was planted in the audience.
It's almost like you knew. How did you know? Brian, did you send other questions ahead of time? This is not fair.
I may have, yeah.
Awesome. So you guys are doing the podcast. I saw you had like Matt Pierce on from Pierce Property Services.
Yep.
And so are you guys going to try to have industry people on each week? Is there kind of a theme to it, or is it just sort of sitting and chatting and having fun?
So yeah, there's a theme. So keeping it real, just a play on words with real estate, bringing in different aspects of the industry. So Matt came on, Billy Butts, who's with Outdoor Pride Landscaping now. Yeah. He came on, and then Eric Daigle is the general manager of East Bay Grill down in Plymouth.
Okay.
He came on and we took a little like his aspect of the restaurant world, right? Because everybody knows like they've been crushed the hardest. We kind of talked through March hits. COVID is here. You guys are shut down. Talk us through that process. Talk us through lessons learned, technology use. So it was pretty interesting to hear his perspective on that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the goal, is to keep bringing on different, industry folks that can talk about different, what they do, kind of promote their business. But then also we'll get into, the real estate side. And then at the end, we have a little fun with some rapid fire questions. And, like you said, keeping it light. Because the stuff can get dry sometimes.
Yeah, sure. It's got to be a little entertaining.
Yeah.
That's great. So I've always thought of you as somebody that's a good networker. You build long-term relationships. I know a lot of the vendors that you've used, just being around, around Boston as well, last 10 years. How come you do business that way? Like, has that benefited you? Do you choose that? Is that a conscious choice, or does it just kind of happen that way?
Sure. I appreciate that compliment. So I learned that long ago, I don't know, I think we're all just products of good and bad parenting. So whether it's an old soul or I like direct communication. I think, honesty and being genuine is important, no matter what industry you're in. A gentleman, Greg Birchman, he owns Harbor Networks. He's a great guy. He's done very well building up that company and hasn't had to sell a thing a day in his life because he's just so genuine. He told me a long time ago, always look to give and help, and never look for the get. The get will come, and but be genuine in that approach, and it will come back to you when you need it. But I think from a contractor or vendor perspective, there's so many areas that property management touches. Literally, think of everything you walk into a building, and we have our hands and some or all a portion of that. So we have a lot of relationships that we have to keep to get to the end goal, which is satisfied tenants, clean, happy, healthy buildings, and it takes a lot of team to do that. So I think the relationships and having those relationships and being good and genuine and networking and all those things that kind of get wrapped into it are very, very important. We always look for the long-term goal. I've always been that way. You're not going to win every deal. You're not going to win every bid.
Sure.
But if you can be honest and upfront, and I'm a big proponent, and I tell the managers now, call people and tell them why. It's a simple no, and don't be afraid of telling the no. There's nothing worse than they're haunting you. Maybe they can learn something for their next time. It'll be awkward for 2 minutes, right? And then it'll just, if they get nasty, just hang up the phone. It's don't feel like you have to sit on there. But if they want to kind of learn to be better, don't be afraid to tell them, this is why you didn't win this one. That doesn't mean you won't win another one. I've fired people that have showed up 5 years later, and I said, hey, how you doing? Great. There's another opportunity out there. So I also think that goes a long way when you do need to ask for the get, which you try to wait on. But in our world and in your world, things come up last minute, or things happen, or we need something fast, and being able to pick up the phone and say, hey, can you do me a favor? I really need your help here. I'll get you back on, on the next one. I think if you don't already have that good, baseline set and a good relationship with those vendors, they're not going to feel compelled to do it. But they usually do it because you've either done something for them, or you already have that good, strong relationship built. So I think it's important, not only in our industry, but in every industry. And Todd, you've been that way, and the T&K guys were built on those same kind of models.
Absolutely, yeah.
Help before asking, and it's a long game that we're playing here, and we all got to help each other out to get to the end line.
Megan, have you seen a change in that? I'm just curious from my perspective. I also coach contractors. I have a company called Top Contractor School, and one of the things that I always try to tell them is, technology is taking a lot of that relationship, and it's kind of watering it down. Have you seen that from your perspective of just less what I call real communication and more, kind of hiding behind the email and things like that? And how has that changed the relationships that you have with some contractors?
Sure. Yeah. So it's funny you say that. We were just joking. I get it. People are in a crunch and they're trying to make their numbers, or they're just everybody's in a weird place right now, not knowing if they have job security. The emails and I call them robo emails that get blasted out now, insert new name and just send the same message like that. To me, I get it. They're trying to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and hopefully one sticks, but that drives me insane because it's lazy. It's not genuine. I don't know who you are, and then some of them are now even not, oh, maybe you didn't get my first email. Nope, Outlook works. Definitely technology works. I got your email. I just didn't respond. So I will say, picking up the phone. I know it's hard right now getting face-to-face. The events, I think BOMA and all the industry, the groups that we all belong to are great to meet people. But then I think you got to find some ways, do your research. If I was meeting with somebody, I would go on, the internet's great. You can find out almost anything about anyone. Look where they went to college.
Almost to a scary degree.
Right, exactly. Find a way that you may be able to connect beyond the surface. And then that person won't, you might actually get a better shot versus just an email or a phone call. Do a little bit of homework. That always impresses me. Show that you've looked into our company or that you've looked into me or something to try to find a way, because people want to work with people they connect with. At the end of the day, we got to get stuff done, but it's a lot easier when you kind of have a couple, similarities, or you just a little bit of a warmer lead in on that stuff. But no, I agree. The reason we started that podcast was I've been thinking for a while about, as you coach contractors, you must, you probably talk about the RFP process a lot. And when we were talking to Billy Butts, I've wanted to like get into these smaller groups. Like again, BOMA, those guys, they're great. There's tons of education that they can give you and knowledge. But like once you start to find a couple, a group and start to learn more from each other versus here's my RFP, I'm going to send it out to 3 people. It's probably wrong. Like Todd, the snow removal ones. We just take them from 5 years ago. And it's,
of course.
Thing, 0 to 1 inch, 2 to 3 inches.
Give me some feedback, please.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'd rather sit ahead of that and talk about like, all right, is this even right? Like, because dumb real estate people, guys and gals like myself, have just put these together based on not, 100% knowledge, but we should sit at the table before that and say, what are the goals of the property? What are you really trying to get done? And then at the end of the day, when I try to go say, oh yeah, our snow removal number was here, but this is why, I know snow's got seasonality to it, but there's other things that you could really drill down and understand more about the other side of the table. Now it's hard to get to that point unless you already have those relationships, but I know there's other owners that are willing to bring a couple of vendors together and start learning more from each other. I think that, I don't know, that just kind of breaks down. We're pitted against each other, I think unfairly. Cards are always up during an RFP process. You don't want to give too much away. And I think it could just be a better, maybe whether it was an RFI, as Billy Butts was telling us, or something ahead of that where you could learn more from each other outside of that, just, that process. So
it's such a much better way to do business, I think, and to, network and all that. But the Pavement Group, really, Brian founded the company on the idea of sharing, of like, there's enough out there for everybody. Let's help each other. It's an industry that really has never reinvented itself and never got to that next level. And it's always been very provincial and very sort of shut down in the way that you're saying. People hold their cards very tight, and we're trying to do things differently. A little plug for the Pavement Group here, but we're trying to do things differently because it's just a better way to do business. It's a better way to because you got to do this every day. You're spending 50, 60 hours a week in your job, no matter what you're doing. Might as well do it with good people, sharing, helping each other. It's just a way better way. So I like that statement.
Yeah. I think, what you said there, I'm going to use in our training class here and upcoming in January, because it's something I believe in, but we can coach it as much as we want on our end. When you hear it coming straight from somebody who's on the other side of the table, one of the things that we teach is like, don't leave the boring voicemail. Hey, Megan, just call and check in on that proposal to see if, you had any movement. Like, people want to see something, one of the follow-up methods that we use is like, I try to get people's cell phone numbers and I'll literally send them a video message, like of me talking into the camera. Sometimes I have my kids with me, but like, it helps us understand each other. Like, we're all humans here.
Yes.
We're all, like Todd said, like, there's a lot of people in our industry that believe like, oh, don't share any secrets because then someone else is going to beat you to the finish line. It's like, man, if you're doing things the right way every single day, you are going to get your fair share no matter what. And it's really comes down to work ethic and culture and sharing the same values and finding those people and those companies on the other side that believe what you believe, right? And you're looking for the same thing coming back our direction. Right?
Yeah. There was a podcast I was listening to this morning about big tech and how, they all just steal from each other and they all have the same ideas. And one of the gentlemen that was on there was saying, everybody can steal your ideas. They can't steal your people. And be in the customer service business, right? And if you get the right people and you train them, eventually you will prevail, right? Because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what I think matters, more so.
Yeah, no question.
Selfishly, I have one more question because I've been thinking about this idea for Top Contractor School. So obviously we have about 300, just over 300 people in our programs on the.
Yes, I will come speak to them for you. You didn't have to ask. I'm just kidding.
So that's great. That wasn't what I was going to ask.
We're done here. That's a wrap.
That's a bonus. But one of the things that I've often wondered is like, are there resources out there? Because you mentioned like an RFI process or an RFP process and that kind of, almost broken process of like where there's not a lot of feedback coming back to you guys until that information's already out there. And so I've always thought about like literally having a Top Contractor School section that would be available for free to property managers to kind of educate them and pull the curtain back on our side of things to kind of show you what we go through, right? And then share some of that information. Do you think that would be something that's useful to property managers? And do you think
100%? That's what I was trying to do on a small scale. Like, take something very relevant, asphalt. So we look at, we're also we're owned by a family office. We have long-term holds on our properties. So when we look at, we don't have a sales cycle with an institutional owners where we have to flip out of properties at a certain time. If we choose to sell it, we can, but for the most part, we're in it for these communities for the long haul. And so when we buy a building, when we do a full assessment, pavement's pavement, right? It's there, and it's like, well, if there's a hole, we'll fix it. But early on, I'll give Gary Z a little plug from T&K. He taught me, and he walked a property with me, and he walked the parking lot, and he said, all right, so fresh asphalt, right? This is your first year. Then we put together an assessment plan for the next 1 year, 2 year, 5 years. And I was like, oh, and he said, because if you do that, you won't have to rip and relay, and you know what I mean? Or you will preserve the longevity of the actual asphalt that was put down, and then you can crack fill, and then you can seal, then you can stripe, and you kind of repeat it for X amount of years. And I thought that was so valuable. I was a property manager at the time, and now I'm trying to teach these guys. I'm like, use your vendors, call them and have them walk the property. We've got some alligator cracks over here. I mean, we've got some work to do, but have them educate you on why. And so that when we go and ask for $500,000 to do the parking lot, you'll actually know a little bit more about, no, if we do it this way, what is binder coat? What is 1 inch versus 2 inch, things like that. So I agree. I mean, I'm inquisitive by nature, but I think that's only going to make you a better on both sides of the table, right? And then conversely, I can tell you, or the contractors, this is what we go through when we're sitting there looking at different projects, when we do it, why we do it, what we think is important. And if we're not as educated as we can be, and I go to the table and I ask the owners, I'm like, all right, well, for capital, I need $300,000 or I need $500,000 for an asphalt project. Those are 300. But if I can explain, no, actually, if we spend the extra 2, we'll get 5 extra years out of it. Then they'll say, oh, but if I don't have that knowledge, I'm not doing the building justice. And then you guys are just going to, all right, I guess we got the smaller project, even though deep down that's not the right path, to take. So
right on. I think a lot of vendors just assume these things too, like with asphalt anyhow, because there isn't all that much to know, but we kind of forget that, you need to know everything about a roof, about your HVAC system, the education is key. And you will not find anybody better than Gary Z in this entire industry, as far as a human being, but also as a guy that's got the knowledge,
He's the best. Yeah.
He is the best. No question. Brian, you had a question about culture. You want to put that one out there?
Yeah. So, obviously, as the director of operations for a fast growing commercial real estate company, there's always things that, kind of fuel that growth behind the scenes. And I'm big on people. I'm big on culture, everything that you've already touched on. What is it that you think that's fueled that growth? And then how do you keep the team kind of motivated as the workload increases, right? You get the same people, more properties, and a lot more to do. How do you, what do you think's fueling it? And then how do you keep people kind of motivated and focused?
Sure. Yeah. So fueling our growth, I think, as I mentioned, so FoxRock Properties is owned by the Hale family office. So Rob Hale started Granite Telecom, over 15 years ago, and then did well in that sector, wanted to invest elsewhere. So he started investing in real estate and started investing in companies. So he's got a Copley Equities. They invest in startup companies, and then FoxRock Properties is the property management and ownership arm. So we organically grew just like early, and then kind of really ramped up the last couple of years, built up this team. So we jokingly said it was like FoxRock 2.0 because it was almost like a startup with $1 billion backing, and said, go find buildings, but you got to find the right ones, right? Or they're not all success stories. So I've been here 3.5 years now, and we've got a really good team in place on all facets. We've got asset management, brokerage, development, business development, acquisition. So we're looking at buying, a ton in the next couple of years. But even in, jokingly, people are like, you're in commercial real estate, that must be awful right now. I'm like, no, actually, it's not if you're well capitalized and you know what you're looking for. So It's a good time to buy. People are going to come back and they're going to use their space. They're just going to use it differently. And we're going to help them try to get there, right? And be a little more flexible than maybe in years past. So I think our team now is good. It's hard, again, in March, COVID hit and everybody went home except for us because the engineers still had to be at the buildings. Property managers had to still check out. And so keeping them kind of motivated, especially for the engineers who are just by nature love to putz and move and work. We found ways of doing projects that we should do when tenants aren't in the building, right? So we sealed and striped a lot of our parking lots, and we did some facade work that was normally noisy and annoying, because we said, when these tenants come back, we don't want to tell them, now you need to move your cars. They're going to say, what were you doing for the last 3 months? So
right.
We kind of took a look at things like painting projects and things that we could do in-house that they could keep busy, that we could take care of. If it's not the dream scenario of how it happened, but a vacant building that we're still collecting rent on, for engineers, that's like, great, nobody's in my way. I can get heat pumps done. I can get this stuff. So we had to help them kind of refocus their efforts. Now you're not answering all these work orders from the tenants. You're now looking at projects and saying, okay, this is what we can do to get the building ready for when it gets reoccupied. And we know it will, and it already has. And so they focused a lot on that. And then the managers, same thing. They just try to keep doing the financial piece of it, the tenant relations. I think one thing you'd mentioned is, what do we do a little differently? I don't know that it's different, but I do know that it's something we focus on is we just feel there's no substitute for good tenant relations, back to what we started with and networking. So I was in the front, March hit, and instead of talking to I shouldn't say but our normal contacts, which was, facilities manager or office manager, now I'm talking to the CEOs and the CFOs, because now they need help. So we're here and we're talking and we're having these good relationships, and they're saying, hey, can we get a couple months deferred rent? Can we work together? And so I was on the phone like morning, noon, and night, just trying to solidify those relationships, find out how they're doing, look at their long-term plan, try to help them where we could. And I think it helped. We got a lot of feedback that, for tenants with multi locations, that their other landlords were not doing that as much. Like we said, it's easy to hide behind the computer. It's easy to send a letter, say, no, pay your rent. We don't care. We picked up the phone. I did a webinar on like a reoccupancy plan. It wasn't fun. It was kind of dry, but communication was important, right? This came without precedent. Nobody knew. We didn't know, but people often look to your property manager for the rules, right? So we're like, all right, we better learn the rules, because we're going to have to answer. Yeah, or create them. And so we did. We took the CDC, we take, the state guidelines, and then we just kind of do best practices. And, again, relationships matter. I'd reach out to, what are you guys doing in Boston? What's Newmark doing? What's, Rock Hill? What are you guys doing? Are you taking temperatures? Are you not taking temperatures? Are you shutting your buildings down? So we all collaborated together, and we got through it. But again, I go back to that point, the tenant relations. If this is the first time you're trying to talk to your tenant and they don't know you, and you don't, it's not a good scenario where now they have to ask for rent relief. You have no pulse on if they're good, bad, or indifferent, right? So you don't know how their business is going to be. And so it helped us to be able to kind of get through those last couple of months. And knock on wood, we collected about 95% of our rent. Again, we don't have a big retail portfolio. So retail that we could help, we helped. We have some nonprofits. We try to help them. And, we just kind of came up with a plan that worked for everybody. And I'm hoping the memories will be long on that. And they'll want to stay with a landlord or stay in a building or grow with us because they know when it mattered. We kind of tried to help as much as we could. So
do you feel like most of these clients want to get back into the office space? They have plans to?
I think they do. One of the early on podcast, or it was like a BOMA or RIFA webinar that I watched, said we've proven that work from home works, but only about 10% of the world, you know what I mean, of all industries will really say, you know what, I like my sweatpants. And they were more introverted anyway, right? They're a software engineer that needs a dark room. Yeah. Our industries are more collaborative. We need the water cooler. We need to talk.
Right.
So I've seen a lot of folks already, like they've already come back. They're trying to stay within the guidelines, and they're just putting essential personnel that need to work together in the buildings. But no, our tenants run the gamut in different sectors, but for the most part, there was a law firm that did a lot of insurance claims. They were doing a lot of COVID related claims. So they were now working 90 hours a week, and they needed to figure out, they needed more space to spread out. So that's people think office space will shrink. It might, or it could grow and people just spread out a little bit more. Or they'll diversify and have a multiple offices, which is what we hope, because we're working on a pretty cool, diversified office model where you could do that. You could have a small postage stamp in Boston for the address, but then you could have north and south of the city where, God forbid, something like this ever happens again. Or we just learned that flexibility can work, right? And if it's snowing in Pittsburgh, you'd rather get more work done at home, than just drive to the office to say that you were there.
It is so cool to see some of the innovation that's coming out of this. I mean, nobody wants this. We don't know how much longer it's going to last, but there's so much amazing coming and innovation that's coming out of this, that's, going to change the world again. And I don't think we'll continue to go backwards. We'll kind of slingshot from it.
I agree. No, I think there's going to be some really good things that come out of this.
Yeah.
It's, again, like you said, you don't want to see it happen this way, but they say never waste a tragedy.
Never waste a tragedy. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think one of the cool things that you've seen this year, and you just kind of described it, but it's a spotlight gets put on a company's culture, right? The real identity of who people are and what that organization stands for. I remember when this hit for us, and we were just talking about it here in the office today. I said, when March Madness, the NHL, and I think it was the NBA all canceled on the same day, I was like, okay, this is serious. Like, yeah, I knew that, we were going to go through something. And, as a company, we looked at each other and said, okay, so things are going to change. Like, again, you said, we got all our parking lots done. We got these projects done. We looked at it and said, okay, we need a ton of innovation. Like, there's some things that we need to implement to get to the next level. So the next month and a half or 2 months, let's first and foremost reach out to our customers. How are you doing? Not do you have any work for us,
right,
but how are you doing? Can we help you with anything? And then start working on the things that we need to do to get to the next level, that we can take this time and use it wisely, right? And so I think that that's one of the things that I look at, and I think as you look around at companies, you've probably seen it in the ones that you work with. We've certainly seen it with our customers. The identity of those companies becomes so crystal clear in these times because, as they say, the water gets drained, the tide goes out, and you see exactly what's going on in those companies. And so I think it's honestly been such an educational year that, like, people look back and say, this was a year that really defined us, right? In a lot of ways, those companies that are exceptional just really rose to the top and put themselves in a position. And I would say, Megan, you said, like, I hope these people remember. The right ones will.
Sure.
And those ones that don't, they probably didn't match your values anyway.
Right.
And you're hopefully going to replace those with tenants that do match your values.
Agreed.
So every company gets a little healthier from all of this if they handle everything correctly,
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I agree.
Well, thank you so much for your time. One last question for you. Today's Giving Tuesday. I don't know if we'll get the podcast out today or if it's going to be tomorrow, but any charitable organization or foundation you'd like to plug for Giving Tuesday?
Yeah. So I didn't know it was Giving Tuesday. I like that.
I got a call earlier. Somebody reminded me. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. So
I get it. Here's my credit card.
Real quick plug. We long-term holds, invest in the communities. We're big proponents of not just building these big buildings. We need the community around us needs to thrive as well, because what's the point of building cool real estate if nobody can survive around you? So we try to invest in the communities around us. We've got FoxRock Cares, which is our philanthropic arm that we started, and we really try to partner with we're in Quincy, the South Shore, wherever it is, and grab those groups and try to help them with whatever need the need may be, and we involve our tenants, right? And then we start involving some vendors, and that's when I don't mind asking for things, right? It's not for me, it's for someone else. So we do have a tenant in Braintree, Good Sport, who is a phenomenal group. They are predicated on every child should have the ability to have access to physical activity, right? So they work tirelessly to get equipment into the hands of underprivileged kids that otherwise normally wouldn't be able to play sports. And beyond, I'm near and dear to my heart because I played sports all through college, but I think there's so many more life skills that you learn, and there's so many other health benefits and ways that help these kids. So they have, I think it was $60 million they've been able to give towards sporting equipment to kids throughout the country. And their platform is really cool. It's called Equip a Kid. You go on there, you pick the sport. You can literally be like, $40 gets them shoes, $20 gets them a bat, and you can go softball. You can they've done a great job with their platform, and all former athletes, great people. We built them out a new space in Braintree, and we went there and we packed up. You can go and volunteer and pack up some boxes. And the New York Rangers donated some sticks and jerseys to some kids in the Bronx, and they were psyched because so it's real feel good, and they're doing some really good things for kids. And they kind of got put on pause, right, because kids couldn't play, so they got hit pretty hard with their donations, and now they're just kind of ramping back up.
Okay,
to try to get those kids.
Equip a Kid.
So it's goodsports.org. If you go on their
Good spot
website, and then
okay,
you'll see right on there, their platform is Equip-A-Kid, and you make it easy, people will do it. You click on the button, it's,
yeah,
makes it pretty simple. So yeah.
awesome.
Good folks.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's cool. We'll check it out. Brian, any parting thoughts?
No, that's an awesome organization. We'll contribute to it. We'll share it in the comments and everything on the podcast here, so that people can find that. We have quite a supportive audience and following, so hopefully they'll get some donations to help them out. So, but no, I just appreciate you being here. Appreciate you sharing, and look forward to getting to know each other a lot better in the future.
Same here. And honestly, I said it tongue in cheek, but I'm happy to help if any of your contractors if you ever want the ownership.
I don't forget.
That one's locked away. It's
right.
That's in there for sure. Thank you for that offer. I appreciate it.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on. This was fun. And
good luck with your podcast.
The phone will be ringing to get you guys on, keeping it real for sure.
You bet. We felt like this was an audition.
Yes.
So I'm hoping we made it. All right. We'll do a home game, away game.
You're in.
It'll be a blast. All right. You're awesome. Megan Calabrese from FoxRock Properties. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for watching episode 8 of the Pavement Group podcast. There we go. Too many P's in there. Pavement Group podcast. We're grateful for all of you. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. Thank you.